So today you're getting 3 in 1. That's up next. Hello everyone, this is Dwayne with Edge of Nowhere Farm, and we're coming to you today. It is August 2019. So it goes without saying, it is blistering hot at this time of year here in Arizona. So for the last few weeks, we've been hitting 110 to 115 degree days out here in Whitman, 115 plus in the city, just really, really hot. Dog days of summer, and our trees are just pushing through it. So, one of the things that we haven't talked about before, we do separate all of our videos out into playlists. I'm going to link one for you here where we talk specifically about apple trees, but we've got several different playlists, and we'd like to put as many things into those playlists as we can, so you can go back and look at prior episodes. The reason why I bring that up today is we are getting ready to move on to our new property and essentially starting over. So Lori and I's goal has been to try to cover as many of the different varieties as we have here on the current farm, so you get an idea of kind of what we've done and then of course where we're headed. So what we wanted to do today is we wanted to squeeze 3 different fall apple varieties all into the same episode. So what you see here behind me and next to me would be 3 varieties we're going to cover today. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the tree behind me, our Pink Lady apple. Okay, so first variety today would be our Pink Lady apple. I believe we actually bought this from Walmart if I'm not mistaken. So this tree is about 4.5 years old. One of the first trees that we put in when we moved in. And you know what, the tree itself is doing fantastic. So what I really want to try to cover today is kind of how we've done as far as pruning and how we're going to move over into the new property and kind of learn some of our lessons. So this Pink Lady has really kind of been a focus for us because of a couple things. First thing about this tree that you're going to notice is you're going to notice that it grows very, very vertical. So we prune our apple trees here in an open center form. So if you were to see in here, you'd see there is a slightly open center. However, it's hard to get to because this tree grows very, very vertical, almost straight up. So the height of the tree, this tree is probably pushing about 11 to maybe 12 feet tall. But as far as the width, the tree itself is maybe 5 feet across. So very, very narrow, much more like our pear trees actually. So a very, very vertical growing tree. We've done everything to try to get this thing to grow out. We've pruned the open center. We've actually used tie downs to try to pull arms of the tree down. We've had a little bit of success with a couple of the older arms, but for the most part, this tree has remained vertical. So now we do get fruit sets. In fact, we got our first fruit set on this tree 2 years ago, and we actually had a couple small little fruits make it into September when they're essentially ripe. So now this tree did set fruit again this year, so let's peek at that fruit. Okay, so here we are closer to the tree, and I'm actually going to pull this apart so you can actually see the fruit set. So you can see we've got a really good fruit set in here. We have come in and we've thinned, but kind of pull that back a little bit better for you. You can see we've got 4 just really beautiful pieces of fruit right here. You can tell nice firm pieces of fruit, not getting particularly big. However, they are not getting any bird damage. So that's been a huge struggle with our fall apple varieties. In fact, I'll link our video here where we talked about our Gala apple tree, which is right next to me. Now, one of the things I'm noticing with this tree, we've talked about it, it grows vertical. So it's doing a very good job at protecting these fruit, particularly from birds. So birds, I'm thinking, just can't see them. There's no color at all to these besides green, so they match in pretty well. The tree itself hides them really, really well. And another issue that we've had with our fall apple varieties is sun damage. So obviously the sun is not getting into these trees and causing any damage. So I'm thinking this may be a good example of what we might want to consider as far as our fall apple varieties and whether or not we bring those to the new farm. So our Pink Lady apple, I think we got a good chance at maybe getting some fruit off of there, assuming we still own this place, come fall. Okay, on to the next variety. So this is actually a Honeycrisp apple. Yes, a Honeycrisp apple here in Arizona. Now this tree we planted as a bare root tree about 2.5 years ago. It's actually was a bare root tree from Greg Peterson's Urban Farm Fruit Tree Program. In fact, the next two varieties will both have been purchased from Greg. And the tree itself is doing okay. So now Honeycrisp apples have an extremely high chill requirement. One of the things that we wanted to test here is whether or not we can get a Honeycrisp that needs, I think it's like 800 or 1,000 chill hours. Have to look it up. It's really, really high. And you know, we push maybe 400 or 500 hours, so less than half that really. But the tree itself is growing just fine. Now, we haven't gotten any flowers on this tree, not one. So we don't have any fruit, don't have any flowers. One of the things I know about this tree, it does have a tendency to have pretty flimsy arms, and we're definitely seeing that with this tree. Haven't done a whole lot of heavy pruning on it at all. Did prune to kind of an open center, but again, the way this tree is growing, kind of scraggly, has made it very, very difficult to prune in that open center. Either way, Honeycrisp apple, giving it a chance just to see if maybe we can get one of those beautiful sweet Honeycrisps. Okay, third apple variety today would be what you see behind me here. This is our red Fuji apple. So as I was discussing with the Honeycrisp apple, this tree we did get as a bare root tree from Greg Peterson's Urban Farm Fruit Tree Program, and the tree itself has done actually really, really well. So obviously as a bare root tree, what I like to do is cut these off at a lower height so we can get that open center, and we were able to do that with this tree. I just kept it a little bit higher, so it's about hip height on me, which is probably a good 3 feet or so off the ground. Now, fruit set, we did actually get a really decent fruit set on this tree this year. However, we're having some challenges. So challenge number one, and again, very similar to our Gala apple, we're getting a lot of bird damage. So I did thin, so we don't have a whole lot together. However, you can see very clearly lots of bird damage happening on this fruit. Now, what's interesting is the apple that we started with, our pink lady, didn't have bird damage and still had fruit that looked very, very similar to this. See, bird damage on this one too. Had fruit that looked very, very similar. So same shape and size, same color. So still looking at that green apple. Fruit set's about the same. However, we do have an open center. So I'm thinking that may be part of the issue here. So first thing would be bird damage. So next issue that we're facing here with this tree, much like we were with the Gala, is we're getting sunburn. So if you look at these two pieces of fruit here, normally these would just be beautiful, round, Fuji looking pieces of fruit. However, I've got some significant sun damage that's happening here on the fruit. I've got it on this piece here, got it on this piece here. Doesn't really matter what we do with these fruit at this point. They're toast, literally, for the fall. Okay, so a few thoughts that I'm getting as I'm going through and I'm looking at these apple varieties, because of course we really want to see what we can produce here in the Arizona desert. And you know, these fall apple varieties have been a challenge. However, we really want the fall apples. One of the things that we found with the Gala apples that we picked Gala apples about a week ago. We had a handful of them that actually survived the birds. Now, the fruit itself was definitely not completely ripe. However, when we picked it and cut a few pieces off and ate them, they were by far the sweetest apples that we've gotten off the farm. And as you guys know, if you follow us, we have a couple of apple varieties that produce amazingly here. However, they produce in the spring. So our Golden Dorset and our Anna and also our Tropic Sweet apples all produce in the spring, really before we start getting a lot of that heavy bird damage that happens starting in June. So now those apple varieties, we do prune them as an open center. The trees themselves, in fact, if you look through this tree, you'll be able to see it, our Golden Dorset in the back, those trees grow so aggressively during the summertime, they completely fill back in and really just bush out beautifully. So there's no question in my mind that pruning those spring varieties with an open center is the right way to go, because they've given us amazing production and wonderful fruit quality. However, now that we're dealing with these fall apple varieties, and I'm seeing a very consistent pattern with sun damage and bird damage. Very, very consistent. I'm seeing the same damage on this Fuji apple as I saw on the Gala, which is right behind us here as well. So no question that we're getting very consistent problems with our fall apple varieties from one to the other. Now that's with one exception. And of course, this would be the exception. So our pink lady apple, totally different growth pattern in this tree, much more vertical. It's doing a fantastic job of protecting the fruit, not only from the sun, but it's also protecting the fruit from birds, I think because it's hiding it so well. So what this has me thinking, and you're probably already beating me to the punch, is maybe we need to reconsider how we're pruning our fall apple varieties. We have a couple different options. We can go with a central leader type pruning, which essentially is allowing the tree to grow a single branch or stalk, but essentially it's a trunk that goes up through the center of the tree, and it's more like a Christmas tree that'll allow us to hide some of the apples. So we definitely could do that. And I'm also considering maybe not pruning much at all. So maybe do a couple different tests where we prune to a central leader on a couple fall apple varieties, maybe even let a couple trees completely go, only prune where we absolutely need to. Broken branches, diseased branches, crossing branches, things like that, but really let the tree almost kind of go wild just to see if we can get enough fruit set, we can get enough protection from the branches and the leaves themselves to get a few of those apples into fall and maybe get some ripe fall apples here in Arizona. Okay, so definitely some things to consider. Would really like to get your input on what you think. We've covered, I think, all of our different apple varieties here at this point, spring apples and fall apples. Definitely have some ideas as to maybe getting a few of these fall apple varieties that, they say you can't grow here, but clearly we're getting production off of almost all of them. We're getting fruit. They're just not surviving. So really want to get your input. I know one thing is for sure. We have a lot of space on the new property. I definitely want fall apples. I want them badly. So I know I want to try these out. We're definitely going to bring a few of these varieties onto that property with us, probably more than one of each, and really hoping that we can figure this out and get some fall apples here in Arizona. So just want to thank you for joining us today. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. Questions or comments, leave those in the comments section down below. Instagram and Facebook, we post content there you won't see here on the YouTube channel. And our Amazon page, I'll leave a link down in the description. That is a free, painless way to help support the channel. If you start with that link for your Amazon shopping, it doesn't matter what you end up buying, you help to support us here. So just want to thank you for joining us today and remind you, if we can farm on the edge of nowhere, so can you. And I'll link our playlist here for you. I'll link our playlist here for you. It's up here. And cover I'm gonna start over.
Okay, it's hot out.
I know, I'm sorry. I'm trying to put my words together, I know.